Following response to a comment left on my channel on a video is not meant to criticize the person, but they are repeating something that I did find the source of, and they did not list the source, maybe because they didn't have it, or maybe it's a tactic. I'm not going to take it either way, I'm just going to go with it. Let's read the first part here. I do enjoy some of your more technical videos. Keep outing those fearmongers. Great stuff, though, but I'm compelled to say that to believe that our mainstream science has an all-encompassing grasp of all there is to know about physics, and to say that we are aware of the limits of reality, is a very ignorant thing indeed. And to be of the opinion that light is the bar for measuring speed in our universe is a similar assumption to the Earth being flat. I'm going to cover all of this and come back to this if I have time. We'll see how many interruptions I get from passive-aggressive millennials that have no guts. But the following assertion was made by this person, and this is what I looked up, and no reference of any kind was left, even the name of somebody making the assertion. Unfortunately, it resulted in me finding lots of sources for this, most of which recanted. The following assertion is made. Extremely high frequencies travel faster than light in a near vacuum. The wording specifically that I'm using for our Google foo is near vacuum, faster than light, FTL, whatever you want to call it, high frequencies, not higher, and the word extremely. I just took those words, threw them in there on purpose in a random order so that they would only bring up pages that included them. It didn't matter how rational they were. The relevance test did actually pass. So here we go. Light propagates at around 900,000 times faster than sound. And you'll hear things people say like, if electricity moves at the speed of light, why aren't computers as fast as the speed of light? Because speed, rate, frequency, propagation, etc. are not all the same meaning, and people either incorrectly assume they mean the same or deliberately mung them to sell books. But here we go. Nothing with a resting mass above zero mass travels faster than light in a vacuum that we know of. Only thing that seems to do this at all is light. There may be other particles. We've discovered all sorts of things since then, but light is the bar we use because that's the first one we discovered that has some sort of time limit or space limit on it, time-space limit. This is based on the fabric of space and the propagation of matter or energy through it. It has nothing to do with it being light or electromagnetic in nature. It just has to do with the upper speed limit as far as we know. It can be based on the Planck length for all we know. The quanta of light, as far as we understand it under quantum physics currently, have no resting mass of any kind. And this may explain why light in a vacuum can be used as the upper limit, because it will propagate indefinitely in a true hard vacuum, such as is found between galaxies where there's literally no matter, or almost none, to run into. The only thing that seems to be able to divert it is gravitational fields, and that's another video. The effect of gravity appear to also propagate at the speed of light, but testing it along with a lot of these things requires extremely bizarre conditions of matter turning to energy and back again to be able to detect something of that nature. Those happen in supernova, and we'll be getting into that, and I've already covered that in another video, but I'll be covering it slightly here. Different light wavelengths do have the ability of traveling or refracting at different speeds through different materials and mediums. That's why we use the vacuum as a reference point, because it has no material to go through. See also the fact that radio signals have a speed of light rating through wood that's a lot higher than light, because light doesn't go through wood or mud. And DC electricity won't go through wood very well, but it will go through mud. And that's technically a frequency of zero, a wavelength of infinity and beyond. Gamma rays have a shorter wavelength than visible light, but they don't go any faster than visible light or radio signals. All of these signals, with an insane level of difference in frequency, on orders of magnitude, don't travel at different speeds in a vacuum or in similar medium in some cases. There are some mediums you can actually test this in, by the way. Neutrinos move slightly slower than light or electromagnetic signals, but get emitted really early as a pulse during a supernova's core collapse and pass through the outer layers of the star at light speed minus epsilon. You can look up epsilon. That's the differential. those layers are quite opaque to light, even though they're a star, but it's a dying star. So that the visible explosion that happens afterwards, after it superheats the exterior surface into incandescence again, maybe for the first time in thousands of years, will arrive last, because that's the outer layer of the shock wave from the core exploding and collapsing at the same time. We don't see it till hours later, but the neutrinos arrive earlier. That doesn't mean they're moving faster. That means they were sent off into space before the light. For the same reason light comes to you before the sound wave from an explosion in the distance. One of them, in that case, actually travels faster than the other. But in this case, it's just that one thing happened before the other. The hypothetical elementary particle called tachyons are objects which are defined as something that can move faster than light. Attempts to quantize them have failed because, as far as we know, they don't really exist. But they're hypothetically existent. The first thing we find that is going faster than the speed of light we will call tachyons, most likely. At least, most likely. They're hypothetically or theoretically possible, but we have no evidence of them. Empty space that is really containing no material substance, and therefore by definition has no mass for an insanely huge distance, could be considered a massless item, but it's the fabric of space. So some cosmologists, and most of them actually, consider the universe to be expanding at faster than light speed at the outer edges referenced to each other, simply because right here it's not moving. But at the outer edge it seems to be moving near the speed of light, and over here it does. Well, by definition, if they're on opposite sides of the universe, referenced to each other, they're going faster than the speed of light. Also, coincidentally, is the edge of where the light frequencies shift to red, but still the light moves at the same speed. It doesn't slow down either. That's the other thing, it doesn't slow down either. It changes in frequency because it's being stretched out by the ripping and tearing of space itself, but it goes in such a low frequency we can't see beyond a certain point, because we can't see it because the light is being slowed as far as frequency to the point that it's very low frequency. The only thing we can detect are cosmic rays that have been slowed down to almost bass subwoofer kind of stuff. So, besides empty space, besides a hypothetical tachyon, what do we got to work with? Well, hypothetically, quantum entanglement might take place at or faster than the speed of light because two items effectively become connected and are the same, which would be wonderful. We could use them for communicating. That doesn't mean we can travel. That doesn't mean anything could travel through them, but theoretically this should happen enough that we can detect it somewhere. We're not detecting it. Next, special relativity doesn't prohibit the existence of particles that can travel faster than light, at all times anyway. You could just make an affirmation that the speed of light is different throughout time-space simply because of warps in time-space. But first, let's do a few things here. A little thought experiment, and then we're going to look up all those baffled scientists that keep being put in the tabloids. Yes, you're going to find out where I get all this done, but let's do this experiment. Take a laser pointer, point it at the moon. Swing a laser so it traverses the moon about 1/100th of a second. This is the equivalent to one complete revolution of your hand every 3 seconds. That's pretty slow. Now the spotted laser pointer is moving across the moon, is technically moving at the speed of light. Now just spin it faster. No information or material is being transmitted from one side of the moon to the other, but you can claim a warp speed is occurring at that point. And that is a very, very good example of the following. Here we go with the baffled scientists and their experiments. Please note that some of these were done almost tongue-in-cheek, and others were very dead serious, and I'm sad about that for these people. No, I'm not. I'm giggling my ass off. William Robertson's Middle Tennessee State University Superliminal Acoustics. Yes, an experiment that was set up so that high school students and college students would detect that sound is moving faster than the speed of light. You might want to look into that. You have to be able to dig out what happened to make that trick happen. See also Perpetual Motion Machines and The Amazing Randy. Physicists L.J. Wang, A. Kismich, A. Duggarul, I can't pronounce it, the NEC Research Institute in Princeton experiment. Next, ASA/noise.con, 2005 meeting, Minneapolis, Minnesota. I have a link to that. The 2007 Minos collaboration with the 3 giga electron volt neutrino exceeding light speed, then failed because in 2012 they repaired the outdated detector set. National Institutes for such and such, NIST. 4-wave mixing forcing a pulse to propagate through another pulse as a loophole to create translight activity. Next, William D. Walker superluminal electromagnetic and gravitational near-field propagation experiments, or paper. CERN, GPS to computer connector cables, and the clock oscillator ticking at the wrong speed. Fiber optic link causing a 60 nanosecond error. Guess which direction the error was. Then the cable was tightened and the timer was replaced, and the translight neutrino difference was gone. 100% can't debunk it, Illuminati. Tech support rule number 1, check your frickin' cables and make sure the timer's updated so it isn't in the wrong time zone. GPS. Yeah, they made a stupid error. Next. Los Alamos National Laboratory, magnetic spin field Illumina polarization synchrotron pulsar neutron star testing. Because nobody really thought about the things that travel faster than the speed of light before. Please read more for sci-fi. This is a wide open technological field. John Singleton. I'll try to find a link if I can find him somewhere, but I haven't been able to find any links anywhere. I wonder if he gets lots of funny emails. At no point do any of the above processes or experiments push information or material faster than light, as these boil down to a matter of definitions for what you mean by velocity of a pulse of light, phase velocity, light speed, the definition of c, group velocity, also the medium being used, and whether or not you're using a relative timer for something instead of time and relative dimension sets. Now I'm going to bring up my favorite example, and this is the most likely source of it. Paul Cusack and his horrible fail on page 83 of Universes, spelled strangely, Big Bangs and Universal Beings. The speed of light does in fact vary. Extremely high light frequency has been found to travel faster than lower light frequency. Yeah, a radio signal travels slower than a light frequency depending on the medium. Very good. I'm going to leave the quote below because it's from the text of his little book on page 80, whatever the hell. This is a philosophy student sounding thing. Okay, we're 13 minutes here and I'm going to read as much of this as I can stomach. Here we go. So instead of looking for evidence to explain why the attractions of gravity works synergistically, boing, with an apparent universal order, toing, science instead examines, stupidly of course, how the force of gravity can work within the scope of human reasoning, and totally disregards the greater framework and co-connected relativity. By the way, that doesn't mean anything in case you're curious. No, it doesn't. Scientific physics is being reviewed following the discoveries about stuff traveling faster than the speed of light. There is also evidence that neutrinos with mass can travel faster than light. See the above experiments where somebody got the cabling wrong. Therefore, theoretically, if a person could travel at a higher frequency light speed, okay, first you have to be able to travel at a low frequency light speed. Come to me when you've done that. What could be observed would be the material structure of space-time, which when blown up would look like grainy pixels of high-resolution photographs. I'm not reading the rest of this. You have to be on crack to read it. Next. No, there isn't any experimental data showing anything actually traveling faster than the speed of light, except for people deliberately creating experiments to test the BS detectors for college and grade school students and high school students, and also people deliberately setting these things up to try to prove something that isn't true so they can get grant money. That mythos about scientists faking stuff, I love how these people always bring these up and don't mention them. Now I'm going to repeat myself about the person making the assertions. Didn't provide any links, probably didn't have it, and probably didn't know that almost every single one of the references, actually I checked 50 pages, were related to the same accidents and bunk. Thanks for watching, have a good day, and please don't study philosophy.